What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out. Now, with this video, we're diving into the death of Doctor Strange. This will be issue number 1, and this is written by Jed MacKay. And I have to say right off the bat that this story is really shaping up to be a lot of fun. This issue 1, this introduction to what if Doctor Strange died? What would happen and what would transpire? Not only that, but what kind of failsafes Doctor Strange has put in place to be able to protect the Earth in case he does die. And with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we dive into issue number 1, we are picking up with Doctor Strange. Steven is resting, he's sleeping in, he's really just getting some extra Z's at the beginning of his day. But throughout this story, we're getting his narration. And that narration, it starts off with telling us about Koshe the Deathless, someone that Doctor Strange has always found himself fascinated with. An individual that comes from Slavic legend. An individual who was immortal, or at least that's how the story goes. And the legend says that he removed a small piece of himself. More specifically, he removed a piece of his soul. And the logic behind this is if nothing can happen to his soul, then he will always remain immortal. There will be no chance of ever dying. And so he took this soul and he locked it away, hiding it inside of a needle, then placing it inside of an egg, and then into a duck, and then into a rabbit, and then into a chest. Taking this chest and hiding it away. And so through this, he achieved immortality. Maybe not how you and I may see what immortality looks like or what we think of it, but at the end of the day, this individual was able to escape death by transferring the soul, or at least a piece of your soul, into something else. By doing this, you have made yourself eternal. You have made yourself live forever. Now we see Doctor Strange, he's getting woke up by bats. He goes downstairs, he does his really daily routine. Bats wanting to actively get Strange up and moving, getting him going out of the house, getting some exercise. That way he stays alive longer. Because at the end of the day, you know, bats may be a ghost, but he doesn't want his friends to end up like him. He wants to keep them living as long as he possibly can. And so he gets Strange up and out of bed. They get ready to go for their daily walk. Going downstairs, he sees Wong. They do their little morning greeting, they eat some breakfast, but Strange, he heads out the door. And all throughout this day, he is thinking about that immortal soul, because this is something that stuck with him since his earliest of ages. A legend that he learned when he was merely a child, something that stuck with him throughout his entire life. And there's tons of stories about Doctor Strange and how he began the Sorcerer Supreme, how his medical career had completely and utterly ended, but we don't really get much of how it began. And Strange himself, he contributes a lot of that to that very legend, because at the end of the day, he wanted to be able to cheat death. Even from the earliest of ages, that's what his goal was, to find that immortality. And so by becoming a surgeon, by being able to do what he does, and so in a roundabout way, he really is cheating death. Maybe not his death, maybe he's not saving his own life, but he is saving the life of those around him. And these are all things that he's contemplating while he's on this walk with Bats. Bats being relatively concerned about his health recently. Not really knowing why, but just wanting to make sure that he stays healthy, making sure that he stays alive. But these walks, they can only last so long, because Doctor Strange, he now has a full agenda day after day. He is completely busy. If he's not doing Sorcerer Supreme work, he's back down in the ER. He's back as a surgeon. He's working as a doctor again, having his gift, having those hands again. He's back to doing what he originally wanted to do. But now he's approaching medicine without all of that ego. Being the Sorcerer Supreme really gave him some humility, really an understanding of the bigger picture. And today he saved a life. With a successful surgery, he finds himself taking a break. But during this break, there is an explosion out in the city. And so while he is done with his medical duties, it is time to get to the magical ones. And we see Strange, he suits up and he heads out. Heading out into the city, we have an individual that looks like they are about to overload with power. This person obviously in some kind of agony, in some kind of pain that we just can't understand right now. With the police officers blaring down their guns at him, Doctor Strange makes his approach, and he lets them know that he has this handled. Because at the end of the day, this guy, he doesn't need a bullet in him. What he truly needs is a doctor. And as Doctor Strange approaches, he goes to figure out exactly what is going on. What is wrong with this individual? And tapping into his mind, we find out that his name is Pavel Plotnik. And he confesses to Doctor Strange that he simply wanted the power. Just enough power to be taken seriously. And Pavel lets Doctor Strange know that it is Cinnabis. He has linked himself to the Seven Sons. And right now, it seems like something is going on with that dimension. Something is going on in this celestial concordance. Because all he can hear is screams and death. And so Doctor Strange, he does what he does best. He jumps in and starts performing some magical surgery. And so we see him clamp off the conduit at the base of Mr. Pavel's astral form. And to prevent this power of the Seven Sons going anywhere else, escaping and wreaking havoc, he then cuts all of the remaining off. And just like that, there is yet another life that has been saved today. Now, of course, he definitely wants to dig into this deeper to find out exactly what is going on. But as it stands, Doctor Strange, he's a busy man. He's got appointments around the clock, and so he has to get going. And he tells this guy that he's going to catch up with him later to find out exactly how this power came upon him. Not only that, to find out exactly everything that was happening to him during all of that transpiring. But the other place that he has to be is the Strange Academy. And really, he's telling the children everything that we already know. That the Sorcerer Supreme is more than just an individual that's granted extra magic, that has access to more power than regular magicians. Because the Sorcerer Supreme is part of the planet's natural defense system. Kind of like the world's ozone layer blocking out ultraviolet radiation, the Sorcerer Supreme, it maintains a barrier for all of Earth. And this barrier, it protects all of Earth from all of the other planes. The Dark Dimension, the Celestial Concordance, all of those things. And we know there have been multiple attempts at invasions, but what this spell and this barrier do is protect a mass invasion from happening. Now, of course, this is something that's not perfect. The War of the Realms has proven that that's not necessarily always the case. But nonetheless, it remains vital. It is a huge part of this planet's defense system. And without a Sorcerer Supreme, and without that barrier, the world would be in dire constraints. Now, with class ending, this is where we see Doyle make his way over to Doctor Strange, the child of Dormammu. And Doyle, he's been feeling some weird stuff going on. With him being connected to the Dark Dimension, he can feel that something isn't right. And with this being the second occasion of this happening, it's making Doctor Strange question what is going on. But of course, this is something that he's going to have to set to the side, because Doctor Strange is yet again brought to another area, brought to yet another appointment. But this appointment is a little more violent, and this is where we see him meeting up with Magic, my number one freaking girl. And we are seeing demons flood all over the place. They are attempting to try to kidnap children and offer them up as a sacrifice so they don't get eaten themselves. Of course, Magic and Strange, they are not going to allow this to happen. And we see them beat back all of these demons. With these demons being taken out and defeated, Doctor Strange is yet again pulled in another direction. Because the work of Doctor Strange, it truly is never ending. His responsibilities are never ending. And with all of this going on, with everything that he has to do day in and day out, he thinks back to that immortal legend. Thinking back to it, thinking how it's something he could never find himself doing. Because he questions, if a man doesn't have a soul, can you call yourself alive? And with him relaxing at the end of the night, really just kicking back, trying to have a quiet, very calm night, there is a knock at the door. And as Doctor Strange makes his way over there, he recognizes he has to keep up appearances. Because while Stephen, he may be tired, Doctor Strange is never out of energy, never unwilling to help someone. And so getting into character, he opens up that door. And when he opens that door, we simply see a shadowy figure. Doctor Strange appearing to know who this individual is, but calling this arrival very odd. And in an instant, we see the fight break out. Not really sure who he is fighting with. Something is happening here. Something is happening and Doctor Strange is not winning. And as his last moments are approaching him, he can only think about his friends and how he wished that they weren't here because he doesn't want to see them like this. Even if they were here, they wouldn't be able to help him because this is beyond them. And this power arrayed against him, the overwhelming, inconceivable power, it's very familiar to him. And as those last moments come, he can only think that maybe he does want his friends here, only for the selfish reason of not wanting to die alone. And the moment this happened, the world reacted. There was a complete shift in everything. Everybody felt it. Things became very strange. Things started to fail. And with everybody feeling this, we see people coming to his aid, but it is already too late because the deed has been done. Doctor Strange is now dead, lying on the floor with no pulse in his body, a dagger in his chest. Now, his death, it was definitely felt by everyone. And this is where we see Mordo. With him making his entrance, Wong completely emotional, completely distraught, he makes his attack at him. But Dr. Voodoo and the others, they hold him back. And Mordo, he lets us know that this was not him. And right now, he is completely infuriated because he wanted it to be him. He wanted to be the one that killed the Sorcerer Supreme. And someone has taken that from him. And he vows vengeance. And this is when Captain America tries to get in contact with Doctor Strange. With Velma Staten picking up the comms, Captain America is letting us know that there are full-scale invasions going on right now. Because with Doctor Strange dying, the barrier went down. This leaving Earth completely vulnerable to all kinds of attacks. From mass invasion, with the different dimensions putting up base camps all over the world, we're about to see an all-out conflict. We see everybody arguing, everybody fighting, nobody's able to get along, nobody knows what the next course of action is here. And that's going to bring us back to our Immortal, an individual who cheated death. Doctor Strange, infatuated with this as a child, now having the powers of Sorcerer Supreme, coming back from the dead is something that he has only ever done one time. When he was much younger, in case he was ever killed in the future, he did something close to creating immortality. And we see a blinding light open up, and we see Doctor Strange walk out of this portal, asking what needs to be done, and what year is it? Alright gang, so as we dive into issue number 2, we are currently picking up with other dimensions starting to breach Earth. From the purple dimension to Dagoth, we are seeing them rise all over. Other dimensional warlords are taking their claim across the globe. With the death of the Sorcerer Supreme, they all believe they have their opportunity to be able to rule over great amounts of land, to be able to pillage, to be able to rule, to be able to take what they want. Meanwhile, we are picking up with Doctor Strange. Now, obviously, this isn't the Doctor Strange from our modern current timeline. This is a Doctor Strange from the past. And as Dr. Voodoo, Zelma, Bats, everybody in the room looks at him and they're in complete awe. They don't know what's going on because right now, Stephen Strange is on the ground. He is completely bled out and he is dead. But somehow, walking into the room is Stephen Strange. Now, obviously, everybody in this room, they want some kind of answer. Being able to recognize that this is the real Stephen Strange. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. And he goes on to explain that it all comes down to 7 days. Now, for everybody in this room, it's obviously many, many years ago when all of this happened. But what Doctor Strange did is he severed 1 week from his life, taking 1 week from his personal timeline taking it out of his lifespan. He was able to isolate it, he was able to protect it. This was Doctor Strange's contingency plan, so that if he were ever to die, a part of himself, a temporal remnant, would be left over so he could get his house in order, be able to take care of whatever is necessary, and if he was murdered, bring that person to justice. Now, in the midst of him explaining all of this information, this is where they get a call from Captain America, and Captain America lets us know that they have a multi-invasion of different dimensions happening ongoing all over the world right now. And this is Doctor Strange's wheelhouse. This is the job of the Sorcerer Supreme. Now, right off the bat, Doctor Strange lets him know that this isn't the Strange that he's aware of, and lets him know that Doctor Strange is officially dead. And in regards to the invasions, he tells them that they need to go find the Sorcerer Supreme. And as everyone in the room, they look around because he doesn't know. He doesn't know that the dead him on the ground was in fact the Sorcerer Supreme. But he puts these pieces together very quickly. And now he's recognizing that this world, this earth has no Sorcerer Supreme. And so recognizing this, he starts breaking down what they can do. Recognizing that these dimensions, they aren't setting up in some big city. They're not attacking people. There's no civilians in any kind of harm's way. What appears to be happening is they are setting up shop, getting ready for maybe a big invasion, maybe just claiming land for whatever is about to happen. And so he tells Captain America that they need not worry about those guys, at least for right now, because they are the least of the problems. There is something bigger on the horizon. He just hasn't pieced together what that is yet. Now, Captain America, not knowing what to make of any of this really, he says that they need to talk face to face. They need to talk in person. So him and the Avengers are going to be on their way. And as this conversation ends, we hear someone reaching out to Doctor Strange. Someone saying that they are coming to him. Not sure who this is, not sure who is calling out to him. Doctor Strange makes his way outside. Making his way outside, the one to fall into his arms is Clea Strange. But she is rushed over here to let all of them know that the warlords, they're not coming here to claim ground. They're not coming here to take over. They have come here because they are fleeing. They are running from their dimensions and trying to find safe haven wherever they can. And with Earth's defenses being down, it is a prime location for them to hide out. And what they are fleeing from is the Three Mothers. And the Three Mothers are made up of the Weird, the Crown, and the Crawling. And they have Clea's scent. They have been hunting her down. And the Three Mothers, they are hunting for their child. A child's appetite that is never ending. It is never satisfied, and so they are always hunting for something to feed it. And with a portal opening up, we see the three sisters. And as they arrive, what they smell in the air is magic. A feeding frenzy for the Three Mothers. Now, of course, Doctor Strange, he's ready to stand toe-to-toe with them, with everybody backing them up except for Mordo. He goes ahead and he takes off. He gets out of this fight, not being his fight, not really understanding what is going on. But even with him making his exit, they still stand their ground. But they are not alone in this fight, because this is where we see the arrival of the Avengers. And with the mothers, them all being sisters, they are tired of all the talking and they are ready to test this world. And we see the battle break out. Thor trying to take on the Crown. Now the Crown, she is a powerful warrior queen. The Weird is an alien mage priestess. And the Crawling is a monster composed of acid-mouthed worms. And we see the Avengers throw everything they have at these guys. But we were quickly seeing that the Avengers had absolutely no idea what they were jumping into. Because these Three Mothers, they are just wiping the floor with the Avengers. Now, with them just beating the crap out of them, the sisters, they realize that it is time for them to leave. Recognizing the true potential of this planet. How easily they were able to take on this Earth's defenders. How easy it would be for them to come back and take everything over, thinking this to be a great place for their child, a great place for him to eat all of this magic up. And though the Crown wants to take Thor back with them to give to their child as a play toy, they decide to leave all of them behind, letting them know that they will return for all of them for good this time. and it will be only a matter of time before all of their magic is fed to their child. And as Doctor Strange looks around, we see the entirety of the Avengers scattered on the ground, beaten, broken, but left alive to fight another day. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we're jumping some years in the past. In Wakanda, we're picking up at the first meeting of the Illuminati. The first meeting of all the people that could come together and make the world a better place. And we get a very interesting conversation between Iron Man and Doctor Strange. And Iron Man is telling Doctor Strange that while Black Panther may have invited him here, he is not really sure if he can trust him. Because while Thor may be a god, at the end of the day, he is just a simple guy with a hammer. But when it comes to Doctor Strange, it is so much more deeper than that. Because what Doctor Strange represents is a world that doesn't have any rules. And that is simply something Tony Stark would never allow, let alone be able to comprehend that ever making sense. Now, Iron Man was having this conversation more or less to get Doctor Strange on his side. Because right now, Black Panther T'Challa does not trust Tony Stark. Considering what they have underneath their feet in Wakanda and what Iron Man's suit is made out of, he doesn't really have the trust of the Wakanda people yet. But that's what's going to take us to present day. In the middle of the Everglades in Florida, we have an envoy from Agumon, and they appear to be toting some kind of nuclear device. And as they go through this swampy land, as they are traversing the landscape, they come upon a great portal, the Nexus Portal, because this is the gateway to all realities. And they have been sent here with one mission. And that mission is to destroy this gateway. It's to destroy it so nothing else is able to come through. Because those individuals that have come through, they have come here not to attack anybody, not to prepare for some great battle with humans. They have come here for sanctuary because they are running from the three mothers and the child. And so believing that destroying the nexus to all realities will stop the three mothers, will stop the child from making their way here. They set this bomb only for something to start coming out of the portal with glowing red eyes. What appears to be Juggernaut has come out and is laying waste. Punching, crunching, stepping on anybody that is in their way. Now, picking us up in New York City, we have all the Avengers sitting around, and Captain America and Captain Marvel, they're having a discussion about what to do moving forward. Because the three mothers, they really did have a big impact on the Avengers. And Cap is most worried about Tony Stark right now, because as it stands, he just feels completely helpless to the entire situation. No matter how advanced his technology is, no matter how great it is, when dealing with forces of this magnitude, Iron Man just isn't that big of a player in the game. At least when we're talking about hand-to-hand combat. Trying to combat them on the battlefield, Tony Stark is one of the last individuals that you need by your side. You need him working in the background, trying to devise some kind of other plan that doesn't put him directly in the line of fire. Not only that, Thor has been sulking for some time as well. After this battle, after finding out about the barrier, that Doctor Strange hadn't told him about this, he thinks to himself he might have been able to prevent the War of the Realms, or at least change some events of it. Not only that, Captain Marvel, she was remembering what one of the sisters had told her. As they left through their portal, they let all of them know that the child would be coming. And so they know this is a warning. They know there's something bigger, something worse than those three mothers are going to be coming sometime, and it's going to be soon. Now, Black Panther, he chimes in because right now he is in Antarctica. He is keeping eyes on Umar's forces, with the three mothers making their way into this realm. With them testing this, it appears that the three magical kingdoms that were transported here, they are preparing for battle, but they are not preparing to fight humanity. In fact, they are actually looking to humanity, to the Avengers, to our heroes, for some kind of protection, an extra added layer. Hopefully they will be able to defeat whatever is on its way. And so with everything being just a little bit uncertain right now, the one thing Black Panther is very certain of is these envoys have been making their way to Florida, some kind of energy surge in the Everglades. And so what he is asking them to do, them being the closest that he knows, he is asking them to go investigate and find out what this energy is. And so our team, they gear up and they get boots on ground. But arriving at this portal, all they see is individuals thrown to the side, even some individuals looking squished, looking dead. There has been some kind of battle here. And as they observe a little bit further, they see that someone came running through here. Someone was in a big hurry to get away, because these guys weren't necessarily murdered, they were just in the way. And as Tony looks around, he finds himself face to face with this nuke, saying that it went missing from the Soviet Union back in the 70s. Right now, he is the only one with the expertise to be able to defuse this bomb before it goes off. Now, Captain Marvel, she could technically absorb this blast, but she may be radioactive for a couple centuries if she were to do so. And in the midst of this conversation, Captain Marvel, she picks up a distress. Some kind of invasion happening in downtown Miami. And they are saying that it is Juggernaut, not just one, but many. And so leaving Tony Stark behind, the rest of the team, they head off to downtown Miami. And as they get closer, they see some kind of antenna forming on a rooftop, some kind of spire that is forming. With Captain Marvel saying to wait for her signal, we see Thor jump into the fray, and this fight is underway. Now back in the Everglades, we have Iron Man attempting to defuse this nuke. But while he is attempting to do this, what looks to be some kind of centipede, some kind of creature, starts crawling up and it goes into his suit. Immediately having to activate his suit, he is jettisoned out of it. And with Iron Man sitting here with swamp all in his mouth, he is finally starting to piece together what is happening here. Because you don't bring this kind of weaponry unless you're afraid of something that's going to come out of that gate. And back with our Avengers, they are doing everything they can to take on these juggernauts. But it appears that they are losing in this fight. And Thor, he is getting thrown around. And that is only because Thor has been holding back. Not sure if these things have a soul, not sure if they are alive, not sure if they're clones or what is going on. After Captain Marvel blows through one of them, this is when Thor recognizes that these are just constructs. And that means Thor does not have to hold back. And he starts unleashing on some juggernauts, and he is ripping them apart. Now in the midst of this battle, Captain Marvel, she begins to recognize that these are the Crimson Bands of Sidorak. With them in constant communication with Iron Man, he recognizes what's happening and he tells them if that is the case, then you guys don't have to worry about not letting loose. You can just go haywire and take these things down. With them simply being a spell, now you only have to find out who is casting this spell. And that's just not Iron Man's lane. Right now, he is focused on this nuke. And Tony at this point, he's just so done. With acid-spitting magic worms crawling into his suit, he's recognizing that they need to take back this situation. And Tony Stark is sitting here looking at this portal, questioning what he is going to do next, but he already knows. With him picking up the nuclear weapon, we see him walk through the portal. And as he walks through, he sees the absolute chaos. What Doctor Strange had to deal with on the daily. Something that Iron Man just had not comprehended up until this moment. But continuing down the path, it brings him into the Crimson Cosmos. But with Iron Man arriving here, the only thing he finds is one person left alive. And the chances of survival at this point are almost zero. And so this person is fading quickly. With skeletons, bones, everything surrounding them is just dead. With Iron Man picking up the body, being instructed to go to this spire that is nearby. What she refers to as the Morning Spire. Now Iron Man has brought her here, believing that it might help her heal in some way. But this is to tell a story. to warn all survivors of what happened here, because this land, it was tainted by the three sisters and that child. They came through here and they destroyed everything. Now, there were no survivors left here on this place, on this plane of existence, to hear the warning. That was until Iron Man showed up. And with the morning's fire going off, Iron Man is sunken into a daze, some kind of trance where he sees the story for himself. Now, what we are shown is the survivor of Sidorak, a child born in a pocket of stolen time. Disgraced and discarded, she found her tribe among the scattered, ageless inhabitants of this realm. And it wasn't long before she discovered the Crimson Bands, the Sidorak's greatest weapon. It was all hers to command. And so when the three sisters came, she did everything she could to fight them off, some believing that she is Sidorak himself. But she was merely robing herself in what she feared the most. And that's why we have an army of juggernauts. But at the end of the day, she lost this fight. All who dwelled in the Crimson Cosmos had perished. And for the great Sidorak, whose name is never spoken, only sobbed, using the last of his magics, the dreaded Lord, he bravely abandoned his throne and fled to the flickering realms. And this is when he realizes that it is simply a kid trying to scare off the monsters. Realizing that this is no true threat to humanity, that in fact this could be an ally and a warning to the entire world to prepare them for what is coming. And so Iron Man, putting full power into his thrusters, he takes off. He heads out so he can stop the Avengers from fighting this hero, from fighting the last survivor. Now, when it comes to the Avengers, they are still trying to take down this antenna. The same morning's fire that Iron Man was just at. The one that allowed him to see what was coming. And with the Avengers trying to destroy this, our young survivor is doing everything she can to stop them. She doesn't want to hurt them, but at the same time, she has to let this world know what is on its way. And with this battle raging on, we see Thor coming out of nowhere, and he cuts right through the morning's fire. Cutting through it, it is severely damaged. Now, Iron Man at this point, he's had his head clapped, which means he can't hear a single thing anybody is saying. But with Iron Man getting back into range, with him getting communication with Carol Danvers, he is letting them know that they have to stop this fight, that they have to stop trying to take down this antenna, that it is nothing more than a simple warning to everybody. And we see Iron Man, he is whirling up Mjolnir, getting ready to throw it down and destroy this entire thing. With Captain Marvel not being able to make it in time to stop him, with nobody being able to get in contact with him because he can't hear anybody. We see that hammer let loose, and right before it hits the survivor, Iron Man jumps into the way, pushing the young girl to the side. We see Iron Man take the full brunt force of Mjolnir. With it smashing down on his back, we see his entire suit is shattered into pieces. And with everybody coming down and checking on Tony Stark, he has made it through this ordeal. Though he is pretty badly beat up, probably needs an ambulance, his suit is completely destroyed, but he is still alive. And this is when he tells our young survivor that it's okay to come out. Since he took his suit off, it is time for her to do the same thing. And Tony explains to them that this is all a wake. This is a headstone that is being formed so it can warn the entire world of what is about to happen. And so Tony Stark, guiding her over to the morning's fire that is now completed, she touches her hands against the wall, and the message goes out to everybody just like it did to Tony Stark. It is broadcasted to the entire world that the child is coming, and it will leave absolutely nothing for the vultures. Alright gang, so as we dive into this one shot, we are picking up years ago with Doctor Strange and Enchantress. Enchantress needing some kind of help, and that is because she made a deal a very long time ago. This deal granted her some kind of magical object. The only catch is she had to give up her firstborn child. And of course Enchantress made this deal. She had never anticipated that she would ever have any kind of children. And so the idea of giving up her firstborn was an absolute no-brainer for her at the time. Now, obviously, regretting those decisions, needing the help of Doctor Strange, they are going against the one known as Pulsari. Now, you can't really call this a fight, because Doctor Strange, he turns the wizard to stone almost instantaneously. And just like that, the two boys have been saved. Now, Enchantress is a little bit worried because this didn't kill the wizard, it simply turned him to stone. But as long as Doctor Strange is alive, this spell will continue to hold him. And so Enchantress, Doctor Strange, they go about their lives. That is, until the day Doctor Strange has been murdered. And so that's what picks us up in present day at the Strange Academy. And all of the students, they are being informed that Doctor Strange is officially declared dead. Though they don't say it so crassly, what they are telling the children is that class will be suspended until further notice. And so Eric and Alvi, they go to grab their stuff, being a little bit excited to head back to Asgard. They haven't been for quite some time, and though the circumstances may not be ideal, they're both really excited to get back home for a little bit. But that simply will not happen for Eric. And that is because the wizard has returned, with the spell being broken and him no longer in stone. He has come to claim what is rightfully his. He has come to take the firstborn son. And so Alvi immediately goes to the Enchantress, goes to his mother, and he is absolutely furious. And of course, Enchantress tries to tell him that it wasn't for any piece of jewelry that I traded this idea away, that I traded my firstborn son away. It was in fact the pendant of Yolindo, and this pendant saved her life. But she also told Alvi that she had no intention of having children, and so she doesn't necessarily feel like she should be held responsible for the circumstances that are going on. But she tells him, you can sit around all day being a moody teenager, or you can come along with me and we can go rescue your older brother. And Alvi, he's a little bit shocked. He's absolutely surprised that she is going to go help him. But we have seen a little bit of a different side of Enchantress, especially in the Captain Marvel line. Now, for those that have been following, I've been covering all the Captain Marvel. You guys know how much I love Captain Marvel. With her going to the future, we see her have a child with Namor. The child's name is Ovi. With Ovi making his way to the past, introducing himself to the Enchantress, she has found herself on a more maternal aspect of things. Not necessarily saying that she wants to be around for her children all the time, but recognizes that she does have children out in the world that might need her help. And with that, we see them go through a portal and take them to Weird World. Now they know that they have to find the wizard as fast as they can. And to do that, they need to go to the individuals known as the map makers. Two young children that can map this world better than anybody else, because no one place stays the same. And so without a proper map, without a way to traverse this land, you could get lost forever. And so the Enchantress, cutting a deal with the map makers, they make her a very crude, a very crayon-filled map. But this map is supposed to lead them exactly where they need to go. Meanwhile, we pick up with the wizard, and he has transformed himself, taking all of Eric's magic. We have seen him used as a power battery, draining all of that power. He was able to take over the Crystal Castle, the home of Thoth. And we see the shape that Eric's in. He looks old, he looks raggedy, he looks like he is on the verge of death. And that's because his entire life force is being sucked out of him, and the wizard is taking all of this power. And now, with the wizard being the high ruler of the Crystal Kingdom, there is nothing that can stand in his way. The only issue is, when this Asgardian power battery runs out, he may transform back into his old form. And because of this, he is going to go seeking out another source of power. That power being Alvi. And the wizard doesn't even have to go looking for him because he knows the second born is on his way. Now, picking back up with Alvi and the Enchantress, we're seeing that Alvi, he just has so much pent-up aggression towards his mother, because as he sees it, his mother ran out on them simply because things might be too hard. But Enchantress lets him know that she only did this because she believed she would make their lives hard, that she would only be a burden to them growing up and being good people, believing that their father, he was the best example that could be there for them, that if they were going to be raised by anybody, he was the rightful one to do so, and being raised in Asgard is never a bad thing. Now, in the midst of this conversation, they are abruptly interrupted, and that is from Golta the Wizard Slayer. Seeing these two as a wizard, being able to smell the magic on them, she has come here to slay them. But Enchantress, she stops this before anything kicks off and says that if you will spare my son, then I will gladly take you to a wizard that needs slaying. I will gladly take you to the wizard Pulsari. And we have her automatically agree to this. In fact, it would be a great honor for her to bring that wizard to justice for all of the chaos that he has caused, for the centuries that he has made people suffer. She will gladly bring him to an end. But as they approach this crystal castle, we see the wizard come out, telling them they all should have stayed away, but now they will meet their end. And we see this fight break out, with Enchantress and Alvi doing everything they can to hold off his forces. We see our Wizard Slayer going in, taking her great axe and trying to bring it down into his chest. And though she is very successful in doing this, he lets them know that there is no way you could kill him. No matter how deeply you bury your weapons into him, his skin is impenetrable. There is nothing that could kill him. Now our Wizard Slayer, all she can do is laugh, because she had no intention of trying to do him bodily harm. What she was trying to do was cut the necklace that was around his neck. This held all of the power that she took from Eirik. And with her cutting it off of him, all of that power, it goes back into the young boy. And just like that, they take down the wizard. Now our Wizard Slayer, she goes to deal a deathly blow, but Alvi stops her, saying that she doesn't have to be this person, that she doesn't have to take the life, that they can imprison him and they can call it a day. And so now with the Crystal Castle now under the control of Thoth and his family, we see Thoth, we see Alvi, we see Eirik all head off and start checking this place out, as Thoth's mother and the Enchantress go off to have a conversation. Alright gang, so as we dive into issue number 3, we are picking up at Avengers Mountain in the North Pole. And currently we have Jane Foster and our more or less time-capsulated Doctor Strange. A Doctor Strange who only has 1 week to live. Because what Doctor Strange did is he took his lifespan, he took 1 week out of it, in case something ever happens to him, in case something surrounding his death is very peculiar, he has himself to come up and be able to solve this crime. And so that's exactly what we are seeing transpire here. And what we have going on is the autopsy of Doctor Strange. And before all of this begins, she thinks she has to bring up the point and bring up the fact that she saved him. Not that long ago, she saved him from the Grim Reaper. Though it's not really the real Grim Reaper, more or less a costume idiot, a dead one, but nonetheless, something that Jane Foster had saved him from. And now to see him dead right here on the table, it's really hard for her to fathom all of this. Not only that, because he's standing directly in front of her as well. And though, everybody in the Marvel Universe, they've seen so much stuff, but this is still pretty mind-boggling. Now, while all of that is going on, we have the estranged wife Clea married to Doctor Strange. She found herself fleeing the purple dimension, and that is because of the 3 mothers and the child, letting everybody know that they come from beyond the outer planes. 3 warrior queens of unknown lands carving their way across the dimensions. An army of 3 with one goal of being sheer annihilation. And so far, land after land has fallen to them. No king or queen could stand against them. No warlord, no warlocks, no wizards. Entire armies were laid waste, and the need to satisfy the child's hunger. And going into more detail about the child, she lets us know that the child is essentially hunger itself. It hungers for magic, being the apex predator of the magical food chain, and it has a thirst for magic that can never be quenched. And of course, its favorite prey is powerful beings of magic, like the warlords, like Clea, and like Doctor Strange. Now, as it stands, no one knows the origin of the child. Some claim that it is not a creature at all, but the feeder excursion of the 9th dimension hyper creature. The only part of it our minds can actually perceive in material space. But the mothers are its vanguard, tracking down powerful magical beings so that it might feed. And while she tells all of this to the Avengers, this is where Doctor Strange walks into the room, and he lets her know that all of the pieces, they are finally beginning to fall into place. And he lets us know that powerful magic was brought to bear to bring him down that night. But it was no mere murder. His hands were taken, but this was not mere brutality, it was an act of ritual theft. His soul has been stolen, and with it, his power and the power allowed to be the Sorcerer Supreme. And without his soul passing on, and without the magic of the Sorcerer Supreme dissipating back into the ether, there can be no new Sorcerer Supreme. And with no Sorcerer Supreme, that means that the child will eventually make his way here so he can hunt. But they have to ask, why would the warlords come here, to the realm of their enemies? Now, Wong believes that it is all so they can have some kind of distraction while the child feeds. They can just jump from dimension to dimension, outrunning them the entire time. And so them fleeing here, thinking that the X-Men, the Avengers, might protect them, it has made Earth one of the prime targets for the 3 mothers. And Doctor Strange lets them all know that he hopes that they can find a way to fight against all of this, that he deeply regrets leaving all of this mess in the wake of his death. And currently, London is blacked out, and the X-Men with it. China has reportedly tried to nuke some of these warlord nations. It appears all over the world, tensions are extremely high with these new warlords making their ground all over the world. But the Sorcerer Supreme, the one thing that he must do is restore the office of the Sorcerer Supreme. He now knows the why to his death. What remains is the how and the who. Now that is what takes us to the Sanctum, with Doctor Strange and his wife that he doesn't really know yet. They don't really have any kind of relationship or anything like that. And so for him, and we can only assume for her as well, this has got to be a very awkward situation. But what Clea does is has one of her spirits go around and look for something that Doctor Strange has lost. Something that he is going to need in his hunt for the murderer of himself. And so while our spirit goes and searches the entirety of the world, the two of them, they have a minute to sit down and talk. And what Clea lets us know is that not long ago, Doctor Strange made her forget all about him. They had overcome their problems. They had found again what had brought them together in the first place. That place where two souls overlap. They had everything once again, but it appears that Doctor Strange had stolen every memory from her, made himself a stranger to her. Now, of course, he had his reasons. He had to pay the devil for helping rebuild the universe. And it's definitely not something that he did willingly, and it's definitely not something that he did lightly. But then he died, and with his death, all of those memories, they came flooding back to her. The devil restored every single one of those memories, with her never being able to talk to Doctor Strange again. She now lives and mourns in the death of her husband, one that she had forgotten about for quite some time, and now never being able to touch him again. But now standing before her is a fragment of Doctor Strange. Not only that, it's a version of Doctor Strange that she first fell in love with. The arrogant, the brilliant, really helping her understand why they first fell in love to begin with. But this Doctor Strange has no idea who she is. And he lets her know that after all of the pain that he has seen in the individuals that cared about him, after witnessing exactly what she is going through, that the worst of it is the knowledge that he has lived to be a fool, because a man who had her heart and lost it, he could not be called anything else but that. And with that, we see Clea go in and give him a kiss, with him saying that this cannot be. While she may be a brilliant, beautiful woman, he is not the man that she grieves for. At least not yet. It would be unfair for him to take advantage of this situation. And both of them agreeing that it's probably a bad idea, they separate only for the spirit to come into the room and let us know that she has found the Eye of Agamotto and the Cloak of Levitation. And they are currently being held at a place called Castle Mordo. And that is what will bring us to the mountains of Transylvania. Not only that, we go to the dominion of Warlord Dagoth, and we're seeing two events currently transpire. The Warlord Dagoth is having an invasion happen right now. That invasion is from the Three Mothers. They have made their way here to this warlord, and they have come to take his power back to the child. And while all of that is happening, we have Doctor Strange making his attack on Castle Mordo. And he is going through all of these forces. He knows that Mordo is here. Now, Mordo has never been enough to go after Doctor Strange directly, but he would borrow the power. Now, he thought maybe at first it was Dormammu's power, but it's not his magic that he smelt. When he did the autopsy on his body, his third eye was able to perceive the magical signatures of several powerful beings, and that is from each of the warlords who have now found Earth to be their safe haven. Because what Mordo did is he borrowed all of their power, all four mighty warlords, sold his soul again and again just so he could watch Doctor Strange die. He simply could not help himself. Now, while Doctor Strange is doing everything he can to find out where Mordo is, we see the Three Mothers. They are taking down Dagoth. As he calls out to all of his friends, the Three Mothers let him know that there is nobody coming for him. Doctor Strange screaming out at the top of his lungs, letting Mordo know that after all of this time, he is surprised that he has not killed him yet, but he has every intention of changing that. And when we see one of the warlords being offered up to the child, we are getting our first glimpse of what the child really looks like. Having a ginormous head, tentacles, but appearing to have arms, appearing to be some kind of sentient being. And at Castle Mordo, we have him hiding behind a door, grabbing onto the eye, grabbing onto the cloak, terrified that he is about to lose all of this power. Alright gang, so as we dive into this one-shot Spider-Man, we are picking up with Felicia Hardy, currently sitting at the bedside of Peter Parker. And as she sits by his bedside, contemplating everything it means to be a hero, to be Spider-Man, thinking that he has always lived on borrowed time. It was only a matter of time before something like this happened to him. And for all the good he has done, what does he get at the end of the day? Nothing more than a hospital bed, one that he cannot afford, and one that he may even die in. But while they're having this conversation, this is where we see the arrival of Ben, him coming through the window and asking how Peter is doing. Now at this point, Felicia really believes that Ben is just in this so he can be Spider-Man. That he doesn't necessarily care about Peter in the least. That he just wants to wear that suit, he wants to hold that mantle of Spider-Man. And he will do that no matter the cost. Felicia seeing him nothing more than a thief. And though it may be very rich coming from her, when she steals something, she doesn't try dressing up. And that's exactly what she feels like Ben is doing here. And as these two get into a very heated discussion, this is where we see an astral projection of Doctor Strange, calling out to Spider-Man and apologizing for the intrusion, but letting him know that if he is seeing this message, then Doctor Strange has died. This is one of a number of spells that he is prepared to activate in the event of his demise. And he did this because he has a task for Spider-Man. The days laying ahead are going to be very difficult for the entire Earth. And so he asked for him to come to the Sanctum. Now, of course, Black Cat, she heard all of this, and she is not going to let Spider-Man go on his own. More than anything, she really wants to know if Doctor Strange is actually dead. Saving him not that long ago, she kind of feels bad about the situation knowing that he died just so recently from him being saved. And so as the two of them swing through the city, they make their way to the Sanctum. Going inside, they are greeted by Wong, with him filling them in on everything that has transpired, not giving them the full detail because honestly, there's too much for them to just digest. Saying that Doctor Strange had left them a list of instructions that he would like them to accomplish in his absence. Now, Wong quickly recognizes that this is not Peter Parker, but because Peter is indisposed, he is going to have to do, letting Peter know that Doctor Strange had bound a number of potential threats with oaths and hexes. He maintained these with his life force. And with that life force dying, that means all of these hexes, all of these spells, all of these oaths are now being lifted, and we are seeing all kinds of different beings making their arrival. And inside the file, they have a whole laundry list of things to do, with Black Cat not gonna leave his side, going to make sure that all of this stuff gets accomplished. They head off into the night. They head off to go do their first task. And that first task is ensuring that the Gator Shaman has not discarded their treaty in the absence of Doctor Strange. And as they get there, that is exactly what they find. 3 giant albino alligators attacking him. The Gator Shaman is commanding them, and we have Black Cat, we have Spider-Man doing everything they can to take these guys down. And as this fight rages on, we see Spider-Man, he wraps up these gators, with Black Cat having the shaman in her hands. As Spider-Man continues to read through the pamphlets, he learns that the Gator Shaman is just a lunatic, but he reads a message from Doctor Strange. A very convincing and compelling argument for the Gator Shaman and his gators to stay down in the sewers. And this argument is that those gators are such a rare thing in this world. Those specific mystical magical gators, they are so unique that if you were to bring them into the world, more than likely they would be hunted to extinction. There would be no stopping the violent wave that came forth. And so if you are to retreat back into the sewers, you will protect your gators. You will keep them safe and hidden away from the world so that no one is the wiser, and this mystery can stay exactly that. With Spider-Man giving this convincing speech that Doctor Strange had wrote, the Gator Shaman, he instructs his gators to head back down into the sewers, where it is safe and secure for them to rest out their days. Now, their next mission is going to take them to someone who will eat the heart of children. Not wasting any time, the two of them, they haul butt across town. And they are supposed to be stopping the hungry Prince of Hearts. Knowing Doctor Strange will be gone, he will be out on the hunt. But as these two get across town, they find that the prince has already been taken care of by the one and only Moon Knight. Completely covered in blood, Moon Knight has already dispatched of our prince. With this guy hunting in his neighborhood, that was something that Moon Knight simply could not allow. Now, Moon Knight has heard the news of Doctor Strange, doesn't really think much of it. Says, you know, I used to owe him an apology, I guess that's not gonna happen now. I've actually died a couple times myself, don't really recommend it, but good luck with your list. And Moon Knight heads off into the darkness. But these two, they get back at it. They start checking off numbers on this list, addressing tax in Chinatown, exercising the 666 train, feed the Central Park dragon, taking care of mummies, and appeasing the spirits of the forgotten dead beneath James J. Walker Park. So their night has been eventful. Their night has been action-packed, taking care of random things popping up all over the city. Now, in the midst of all of this craziness, they're able to take a break. They stop for a minute and they really reminisce about what is going on. Because the fact of the matter is Doctor Strange is truly dead. And this is hard on everybody. Because one of the scariest things out there is a world without Doctor Strange. And they honestly had no clue how much he was truly responsible for. Ghosts, demons, dragons, mummies, it was all him. He kept all of this in check. And not a single person had known about it. Nobody knows what he did for this city. And that's because that was his job. He was the village doctor. He goes around day to day helping individuals with everyday tasks, making sure that everyone is okay, but no one really pays attention to him. Everyone seems to forget about the doctor, and that is because they are healthy. And why would healthy people waste their time at the doctor? Why would they go and see him? Why would they take the time when they are feeling healthy, taking for granted everything that Doctor Strange had ever done for them, not realizing until after he is gone all of the great deeds, all of the ways that he protected them. And now without them, they have a sickness that is called chaos. And so they continue through the night and they start taking care of some goblins, making some trouble, making some ruckus. Black Cat and Spider-Man make quick work of these guys. Now Ben, he is not too fond on having to deal with so many goblins. Black Cat telling him that if he truly does want to be Spider-Man, if he wants to have that mantle, he's gonna have to get used to freaking goblins. And so with the two of them being able to take down this rambunctious bunch, with the two of them stopping them from running over a guy in the middle of the road, there is one last task for them to do. Doctor Strange, every single night, he would take a hot pretzel to Miss Garcia, an elderly woman who worked as a janitor very late at night. Working this shift every single night, Doctor Strange would meet her outside with a hot pretzel and walk her to the bus stop. Giving her conversation, the two of them would chat themselves away until her bus would arrive. And that's exactly what the two of them do. Bringing a hot pretzel to this nice old lady, they give it to her and tell her that Doctor Strange is just fine, that he's just busy this day, that they were sent in his stead. And so they sit here and they reminisce. She talks about how wonderful Mr. Strange is, how he was always full of life and cheer and happiness. He always ensured that she was safe, always there to give a warm and loving smile. Now that's what picks us up a little bit later. The two of them sitting on that bench and they're having a conversation because earlier Felicia had said a world without Doctor Strange, how scary and terrifying that would be. And this makes Ben realize a world without Spider-Man can be just as terrifying. That the people of this city, more than ever, they need Spider-Man. They need that person to look up to. They need to know that somebody is out there having their back. And so while he may not be Peter Parker, he is going to be Spider-Man, at least until Peter Parker is able to take up the mantle himself again. And Felicia, very, very unwantingly, tells him, fine, you are going to be Spider-Man. You will be Spider-Man at least for now. Felicia letting him know that he better be ready because there is work to do. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are picking up in South Korea. Off on a distant land where White Fox had once grown up, we see the Fox Spirit out in full force. But this Fox Spirit is out here on the hunt, hunting down the hearts of humans. Meanwhile, in Seoul, South Korea, that is where we have Tiger Division going in and fighting everything that has come out since Doctor Strange had disappeared. Or at least they believed he disappeared. That is, until they got word that Doctor Strange was dead. Recognizing the seriousness of this situation, everybody is out here in full force today. We have our gambler sorceress. We have Taigaki, the general, Mr. Enigma, Luna Snow, and of course Gunnar II. And right now they are in the midst of fighting a giant, powerful demon. And it is taking all of Tiger Division to be able to take this thing on. Since the interdimensional barrier has come down, there has been a breach, and they have gotten wave after wave of interdimensional beings coming through here, raising hell, raising terror. And with Tiger Division taking down this demon, they recognize that every time a new wave comes through, they seem to be getting stronger and stronger. Tiger Vision doing everything they can to take on this threat. They simply cannot be everywhere at once. Now, in the Philippines, we have Lin Lai, aka Swordmaster. Alongside him is Wave. And the two of them, they are laying down the hate to all of the demons that have risen up against them. Now, of course, our Swordmaster, he believed this whole time that this was the god of war sending down his army to fight him. Because like he tells us every single time that we see him, he mentions how it is his family's sacred duty to take them down, to wield this sword and destroy the god of war. And he believed it to be those minions, that is, until he found out about the death of Doctor Strange, the interdimensional being, so on and so forth. But Jimmy Woo letting him know that he needs to get back to HQ, that the situation has become much more dire, and they are recalling every single agent back to HQ. And that situation is Kumio, the Fox Spirit. And right now we have Tiger Division watching this on a screen, not sure what to think of this, because the only Fox Spirit in existence is standing right before them, is White Fox herself. And so if there is another one out there, who is she? Who is it? Is it related to her? And if so, how have they remained secret through all of these years? Now, as all of Tiger Division is sitting here discussing who this individual could be, this is where we see Swordmaster come into the room and let her know that the agents of Atlas, they believe that it is her. Now, he was supposed to be heading back to HQ, but after hearing the news about all of this, he had to come find out. He had to ensure that it was not White Fox. But really, more than anything, Jimmy Woo wants to know if it was her, because Jimmy Woo, of all people, knows exactly what she is capable of. But White Fox, she tells everyone, maybe if this individual is connected to me, maybe I can reach out, maybe I can reason with them and stop this slaughter. With Swordmaster offering up his services, the rest of them want to come with her, but right now Seoul needs protection. South Korea is under attack from interdimensional beings, and they need every hand on deck that they can get. And so Swordmaster and White Fox are going to be the two to teleport back to her hometown, back to her home village. And upon arriving, upon seeing these mountainsides where she once grew up, she tells the story of her people, of the spirit foxes. Now she calls them fox demons, demon foxes, because they're not necessarily spirits with the evil intent that they have had throughout all of the years. Some would call them shape-shifting fox demons, master illusionists who turned into beautiful people and ate the heart of humans. Even some ancient Sorcerer Supremes had feared them. And with her family growing up here, one day she ventured too close to a human village. Interacting with some of the children, they learned about the family. In learning about the family, there was a hunt for all of them, even though they were not ones to eat people's hearts, something that they had not done for generations. They were too feared by legend, and that was the day that her mother had died. Now, Swordmaster, he doesn't really have a hard time understanding this, because at the end of the day, she can understand why someone would want vengeance against the people that did this. But at the same time, White Fox goes out here every single day and helps those same people that would have slaughtered her entire family. And so while the world may see you in this dark light because of what you can do and your abilities, the legends that are told about you, but the truth of the matter is White Fox is a good individual, one that is always there to help people no matter what the cost. Now, Swordmaster goes into a little bit detail about his backstory, because he can understand a little bit not knowing much about your family history, with her not being able to transform into her fox form completely, never learning this because her mother had been murdered. And he understands on the aspect of being handed something without understanding what to do with it. His family had a sacred duty to prevent the God of War from rising and destroying the world, except they never told him about this. But by the time he had learned about it, it was already too late. He had the sword in his hand and killing demons that were coming to kill him. And he has been trying to track down his father and brother, but they are still currently missing. All he has left is this sword and his family's sacred duty. Now, as the two of them arrive in the village, we start to see people coming out of the doorways, but they don't look like people. There's something wrong with them, almost looking zombified, and they are asking for their blood, saying to give me your blood. And with them completely surrounded, they have to fight. They have to fight their way out of this. But they quickly learn that this is nothing more than an illusion. And with her looking up, she sees Uma. She sees her mother in her fox spirit form, looking majestic as ever, letting White Fox know that she has missed her all of this time, that she looked for her for so long, that she is sorry she was not able to protect her, thinking about her every single day. And as the two get closer, this is where we see Swordmaster. He breaks the two of them apart, letting her know that that is not your mother. You know more than anybody that that is an illusion. Now, of course she knows this. She simply wanted it to be her mother so freaking badly. But with this monster being exposed, we see its true form come out, looking like a fox spirit, but so much more, having multiple snake heads coming out from its back, appearing to be its tails. We see the battle play out. And as this fighting is commencing, our monster is giving us a little bit of backstory, because this entire land was once its kingdom. That was before the Sorcerer Supreme, being sealed away many centuries ago. When the Sorcerer Supreme had died, there was no barrier to protect this world anymore. Whatever this creature was, it may have been Kumiho one time, but it is no longer that. It is turned into something more. It is turned into some kind of beast, some kind of monster that has an insatiable thirst for human hearts. And as these two battle this monster, they are seeing illusions all over the place, with Swordmaster seeing illusions of the God of War, seeing illusions of their biggest fears. But White Fox lets her know that there is nothing you can do, nothing you can throw at me that is going to scare me. I have had everything taken from me. I have seen the worst of the worst. So throw everything you got. Throw every single illusion, throw every single fear at me. Nothing is going to stop me from taking you down. With White Fox getting thrown to the ground, we see Swordmaster jump into the way, jumping in to block the fatal blow that was going to kill White Fox. We see his legendary sword shattered into pieces. With this divine blade shattering like glass, our Swordmaster is thrown over the edge. He falls down into the ravine, which has a river flowing at the bottom. With White Fox seeing Swordmaster fall to his demise, this is when she finally finds it. She finds that power inside of her, and she transforms into her full fox form. Finding this power inside of her, she makes her attack, and she is merciless, ripping this beast to pieces. It takes a matter of seconds for White Fox to win this fight. And with the monster defeated, she goes over to the edge and she goes looking for Swordmaster, finding no scent of him, finding no trace. His body is just gone. getting all of Tiger Division over here to help investigate, to help try and find his body. His body had never been found. And with the sword being shattered, the God of War's minions, they begin descending on the entire world. Without that sword, the one that seals the tombs, that seal is growing weaker and weaker every single day, and eventually the God of War is going to be free. And White Fox, regardless of being able to find her true form, she still feels alone, the last of her kind, and completely exhausted, wishing Swordmaster would be by her side, holding on to a piece of his sword, vowing that she could not save him, but she will do everything she can to stop the God of War. Whatever it takes, she will avenge him. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue of the death of Doctor Strange, we are picking up in Chernobyl, the new vampire nation, with Dracula being able to manipulate his way into the world, being recognized as a nation after the Krakoa and the mutants had done this. But it all came with one stipulation. That stipulation is that Blade is the vampire sheriff. And right now in the Vampire Nation, there is a nationwide party for the death of Doctor Strange. Once upon a time, Doctor Strange and Blade, they worked together to massacre the undead, to take out all of the vampires. And now with the death of Strange, they are rejoiced. One of their greatest enemies has been smited from this planet. And so while Blade mourns his friend, the laughter, the party, it grows more and more as the night goes on. And we have some of these young vampires, they come up and they start really taunting the Daywalker. With him being sheriff, he has to hold some kind of restraint. He cannot attack vampires without any provocation. But one of these young vampires, Dahlia, and she is not a fan of Dracula or of Blade. After hearing that Blade is going to be the new sheriff of Vampire Nation, this is something that she was highly opposed to, and she says that this even makes Dracula look very weak. And so while the Vampire Nation, it may have been formed, it may be a safe place for vampires to live, there are little factions growing inside the nation that would like to maybe dethrone Dracula from the head of this nation. Now, as she goes along with this speech, this is where we see good old Dracula come into the room, and he lets her know that he tolerates her rudeness only because she has not yet broke any of the laws in the land. And her and the other council members, they have their uses. But her friends, on the other hand, they are absolutely nobodies. Not council members, not anybody of any importance. Telling her more or less a threat, letting her know that if she keeps at it, her friends are gonna pay the consequences for her actions. And so with her storming off, Dracula and Blade, they go have a conversation. And more than anything, Blade is shocked that there is even a council in this place. Now Dracula lets him know that the council, it's more for show than anything else. It's making them feel like they have a voice. But the reality is, these guys don't even have like a voting right or anything like that. At the end of the day, what Dracula says goes. And he really keeps Dahlia around because she has a gift of reaching the younger generation of vampires. Dracula even goes on to try to say that he's sorry for the death of Doctor Strange. Now Blade tells him right off the bat, just shut your mouth. Like, I don't want to hear anything you have to say. Don't apologize, nothing. Because at the end of the day, if you were truly sorry, you wouldn't be having this giant festivity. You wouldn't have parties over the entire nation. You literally sit there dressed in a cape looking like Doctor Strange. But as they look out the window, it seems that the sheriff of Vampire Nation has to get to work because somebody has come in and they are causing a ruckus. Speaking some kind of unknown language, Blade jumps into action. With him coming down on them, he kicks these guys' butts. With him slicing his enemies to pieces. These guys are coming from another dimension. With Sorcerer Supreme now being dead, the barrier that protected this world, it is now fallen, and we are seeing invasions happen all across the world. And Chernobyl is no exception. But as they continue fighting on, they find one individual appearing to be a child. Not sure what is going on here, not sure who this is, Blade ensures that no harm will come to this child, with Dracula making his appearance and letting everyone know that this person, this child, is going to be held. They're going to figure out what language it is speaking and try to figure out what exactly is happening here. With Dracula making his exit, he tells Blade one final thing, that he is going to need to dress a little bit snazzy and need his presence tomorrow. Need his presence at the council meeting. Now, Blade is just only a guest in this situation, but he wants Blade present to watch what is about to happen. And so we start to see some vampire politics. And of course, Dahlia is the first one to say anything, because now that Doctor Strange is dead, what she wants to do is a full-on assault against the Avengers. Now, of course, Dracula has no intention of going to war with anybody right now, with the world around them in turmoil, all because of the death of Doctor Strange. They are one of few nations that can find solace in these times. And so right now, he has no rush to do anything. Not only that, it appears that with his death, it has brought something new to their doorstep. And so a war with the Avengers is something they just cannot do right now. And so this is where they bring in that kid, the one that came from the other dimension, being able to kind of decipher his language. The language is amplified by some kind of level of psychic ability. This is how they find a way to speak and comprehend everything that he has been saying. And what he shows us is a story of how he arrived here in Chernobyl. A story of chaos in a city behind a veil in a world they cannot see. Pirates and bandits alike, they set upon this child and his parents, with his parents not being able to make it out alive. A rift had opened up. This portal opening up, the pirates and the child, they all fall through it. Excited for new lands, excited for new conquest, they believed that this was going to be their golden ticket. That is, until they met Blade. Now, every vampire in the room, they start making a mockery of this. Start making fun of the child, making light of the situation, and this absolutely makes Blade freaking irate, letting everyone know that this is done with, this is over with. That if they want to put a kid on trial, that they don't need to do it with such an audience. Saying that this needs to stop and it needs to stop now. With the guards moving in towards him, he lets Dracula know that he will take out everyone in this room if he has to. Dracula not moving an inch, not even blinking. This is where we see Dahlia being tired of Blade talking, tired of hearing anything he has to say. She goes in with a dagger, and her and Blade begin to cross swords, with Dahlia screaming at him, saying that he is not worthy to be here, that she is going to take him off this place. And in the middle of this fight, neither Blade nor Dahlia sense the presence of Dracula sneaking in through the shadows, grabbing Dahlia by the throat and telling her this is not how she treats Dracula's guests, taking both the child and Dahlia down to the dungeons. Now, Blade says that, her actions were severely out of line, but Dracula has to ask, what about your actions, Blade? Now, as the two are being escorted down to the dungeons, we see that this child isn't really just some innocent kid after all. We see a transformation happen. With this transformation, the two guards that were taking them to their cell, something happens to them. Something psychic. Whatever it is, it makes their brains feel like they are freaking on acid, completely immobilizing them, understanding that Dahlia might be able to help him out. The child and Dahlia, they throw the two guards into the prison cell, and they make their escape. Now, it doesn't take long for Blade and Dracula to hear the news of this escape. As they go down to the prison cells, they try to figure out what happened here. Now, Blade immediately thinks that Dahlia is out there to try to hurt the kid. Blade never considered that the kid is actually part of the danger. Because one thing that Dracula had noticed that Blade did not pick up on is that that kid is a psychic vampire. Dracula has suspected the moment he saw him. He's seen many such creatures throughout his time, and the way that they played at their heartstrings. This is why Blade acted in such an emotional way during that whole festivities. During their council meeting, when he stood up for the child was using his emotions against him, creating a situation that Blade would want to see. But Dracula had other plans. he had really invited Blade here to make Dahlia come out and do this attack. In doing this attack, it gives Dracula just cause in imprisoning her, taking out some kind of rebellion that might have been building up against him. And so, for a lack of better words, Blade has been played by Dracula. He was used and dangled as bait. But now, with Dahlia and the child on the run, with them picking up a trail, it is time for Blade to go do what he does best. It is time for him to go hunting. But out there on the streets in Vampire Nation, we have vampires going crazy. For the first time in Vampire Nation, emotions, they flow like blood, filling in the streets. And through all of this craziness, we have Blade. He is slicing, he is dicing, he is cutting his way through vampires. Those that stand against him, they meet death by his blade. And in the midst of this fight, this is where we see Dahlia come out and grab Blade by the throat, with her hoping that the child is able to manipulate his emotions to put his rage so far ahead, so high, that he cannot think straight. At the end of the day, Blade laughs this off because he doesn't need some child to manipulate his hate. His hate exists, and it has existed long before this Dahlia became a vampire 100 years ago. But with Dahlia consumed with rage herself, with her hell-bent on taking out Blade, she doesn't feel from the shadows the monster that is hiding there. The red-eyed demon Dracula himself. Creeping in the shadows, he grabs Dahlia and disappears. This is exactly what he has been wanting. This is his opportunity to cut off the head of the snake. And so with this part of the battle being done, it is not complete yet. We still have the child. And as Blade turns around, we see the child appearing to transform into some kind of giant, crazy looking being, grabbing him and slamming him against the wall. We see the two of them dueling this out. And as this fight continues on, as Blade looks like he is getting his butt freaking kicked, he gets thrown into a wooden lamppost. Taking this opportunity, with it being broken and splintered, he grabs it and he shoves it through the giant psychic monster. The psychic vampire being susceptible to wooden stakes. And this fight has actually been a little bit enjoyable for Blade because he hasn't fought this long in such a long time. He has fought so long that the sun is rising up. But with that lamppost impaled inside of the child, this fight is over. And with the sun rising, with Dracula over in the shadows, Blade can't help but just be absolutely livid that he got used, that he got played. He is just a piece on the chessboard and Dracula is the player. But not much time passes, and the Vampire Nation, they are back to partying. They are back to having fun. This is a whole celebration, and they are not going to let anything stop them from having a party. Now, as Blade sits here and he just does his normal brooding, sitting in the corner self, one of these vampires comes up and says that they know what he did to Dahlia. They know what he did to the others, and that he is going to pay for it. With this kid taking a swing at Blade, Blade puts him on the ground, takes a stake, and he drives it right through the chest. With Dracula watching all of this transpire, Dracula says absolutely nothing as this vampire turns into dust. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are picking up and all hell is breaking loose. With the X-Men on the scene, they are doing everything they can to save as many people as possible. With the death of Doctor Strange, the barrier that protects this planet has fallen. And so all over the world, they are getting attacked from various kingdoms, from various dimensions. With all of the forces divided, most individuals are left to their own. The X-Men had been in London trying to take care of some business. That is, when the sky began to fall. And with Dane sitting in the siege, he is learning what happened. He sees the death of Doctor Strange, recognizing with his death, the magical barrier that protects everything, it has fallen. And with the X-Men being in London a couple days ago, they haven't been heard since. Ever since the sky fell, there's been no communication with this X-Men team. Now, with Dane not really sure that his daughter is ready yet, just really finding out about each other, this is all new to both of them. But he's giving her the opportunity. with her going out there and wielding the ebony blade. And with him sitting on the siege, this is where he gets a vision from the past. A young boy grabbing a sword and pulling it from the stone. An old wizard standing nearby, a wizard that can only be known as Merlin. And when that blade had been pulled from the stone, a dark cloud hung above the city. And Merlin learns that this is a world, a demon world, being drawn towards after the sword had been pulled from the stone. But Merlin has consulted everyone he can, and he ensures Arthur that the Excalibur blade, it is not responsible for what is happening here. That it is supposed to push back darkness, not attract it. And so, unaware of what is drawing in this world, Merlin lets us know that this place has a name, and it is known as the Hungry Land. That is what ate London 2 days ago. And so, with the Black Knight ready to charge into battle, this is where it all begins. Jumping into the Hungry Land, she goes looking for the X-Men. And as soon as she arrives, she sees a bunch of individuals that resemble our X-Men, but they are known as the Hungry Court, twisted and manipulated by the Hungry Land. They have become the champions of Hungry Land. They are the defenders. And right now, the Black Knight is their foe. Recognizing that she is 100% out of her depth, this is where we see Phaisa, the wielder of Excalibur, comes in and grabs her, believing that it is Dane this whole time. Wondering why his voice sounds different and why he sounds British, Dane tells his daughter to just say that it's a mask, it's a new helmet, and that's why it sounds so distorted. But now having the Ebony Blade and Excalibur in the same place, they are ready to show the X-Men, to show the Hungry Court exactly what they can do. With Dane telling his daughter to just follow her lead, that she is an expert, she knows exactly what she is doing, and you can learn a lot from her. But of course, being young, being dumb, she does not adhere to this advice. Jumping onto her steed, she flies up into the air, saying that she will take care of this, going guns blazing into battle. And with Jax getting into this battle, Dane lets her know that he learned from Merlin's memories that this place, it remakes reality. That he knows she has every intention of saving the X-Men, but it might be too late for them, because they're not just enslaved. Their whole reality has been changed. Their entire backstory is completely different. All enslaved to one individual, Necromon, the hungry shade of a dead god. And tells her that he's not saying she can't do this, but she might be out of her depth. That this is his world, his rules. Saying to head back, get some help, and maybe, just maybe, you'll have an opportunity. But we see her get blasted out of the sky, with the X-Men, or what was the X-Men, coming and descending down on top of her. She gets saved at the last minute, with Phaisa coming in and asking her, what the heck are you doing? Because at this point, she still thinks that it's Dane. They've worked together before, they know how to operate, and she's wondering why you're acting this way. Why you're just jumping into the battlefield, acting like you know exactly how to handle the situation when you almost just got yourself killed. And even after all of this, she tries jumping back into the fight, just not learning her lesson, whatever the problem may be. She has been an absolute freaking idiot and just getting pummeled. And as they try to make their escape, this is where we see what was Polaris come in, try to use her power to take the swords. But we see the swords, they cross, and with them touching one another, a giant blinding light comes from it. Not really sure what that was. The transformed Polaris has been taken down. Neither of them questioning this because Rogue and Sync are hot on their tail. And their biggest fear is those two catching up to them, they will copy the power of the sword. They will have the power of both Excalibur and the Ebony Blade. And this is where we see the Black Knight. She turns around and from her comes a small explosion. pushing back both of those mutants. It appears that the ebony blade has tantrum magic. Now Faiza tries to let her know that you need to stop rushing into this battle and stop trying to fight this on your own, with her convinced that she can fight this alone, that she is better by herself. She goes in to fight, and only for Necromon to come down and smash the crap out of her. And we are seeing her just get her butt handed to her. She is lucky that she is even alive at this point, but she is learning some very valuable lessons. First of all, if you're gonna be the Black Knight, you need to learn how to be the Black Knight. You need to listen to Dane and those around you who know what they're talking about. Because at this point, she is just making a mockery of the Black Knight. And that's a lot, saying that the Black Knight, Dane, is made a mockery by everyone else in the superhero community. But Dane begins to get a vision of what will truly stop this. The story is not about laying in the sword. The story is about the stone. Merlin not being able to accept that Excalibur being pulled from the stone is what caused this to happen. Arthur begged him to put Excalibur back. He took a different path, a barrier around the world, a legacy for the Magi of this world, a duty pass from Sorcerer Supreme to the next to hold these demon spheres at bay. And with Doctor Strange dying, this barrier that protected the planet, it was brought down. Nobody was there to maintain the barrier spell, all because Merlin wanted to keep the glorious sword known as Excalibur. But it wasn't just that, it was also the Starstone. Taking the boulder, they broke it down and they reforged it. The boulder was the Starstone, and it is what is used to make the ebony items. And so the Black Knight essentially is a magnet for evil, and with Excalibur unable to even hurt this monster because it is his realm and his rules. You can't kill what is already dead. Now this is where the Black Knight starts to put some things together. If Rogue and Sync, they can copy people's powers, they might be able to use this. Charging full speed at them, they get devoured. But in getting devoured, this frees both Rogue and Sync, because those swords, the power in those swords, made them impervious to any changes on this planet, or in this realm if you will. And so with the two of them being free, taking this power, Rogue makes her way to Jean Grey, stealing her power. With a giant explosion, Rogue and Sync, they free everyone from this grasp, freeing everyone from this reality bend. And now it is the X-Men Black Knight versus Necromon. But even with all of these forces now on their side, they still cannot bring down this monster. And this is where Jax gets an idea. A pretty bad idea, but if this idea works, it's going to solve their problem. Telling Faiza if she would just have their swords clash together, this may draw away all of this evil. With her agreeing, we see Excalibur lunge towards the Black Knight. But instead of being met by the ebony blade, Jax, she takes the sword directly into her chest. And with doing so, we see Necromon completely obliterated, and Excalibur still stuck in the chest of the Black Knight. We see Faiza use some molecular control, be able to cauterize arteries, block all the paths, so the Black Knight does not die, but the sword stays in her chest. Because the Black Knight is the living embodiment of the Starstone. What they are essentially doing is taking Excalibur and putting it back into the stone. This will drive away those worlds, the ones that have been drawn here, like Hungryland. This will officially push out all of the evil dimensions that have been trying to come here. Instead of depending on the barrier, the sword is now back where it belongs. At least for the time being, Jax is going to continue to hold this sword in her chest. And if you're wondering how she has become the stone, it is because when you wield a magical item, you start to become that item. And that is exactly what has happened to both Dane and Jax. They are the stone. Now, the X-Men, they don't want to just leave her here, but Dane and Jax, they let them know that this right now is a global effort. Dane can see all of it happening all over the world, and that if things don't actually work out, it won't matter who Excalibur's sticking out of, everything will die. The child is on his way. The mothers are on their way. With Jax letting them know that she really is okay and she's going to continue to hold the sword in her chest until everything can be taken care of. And with the X-Men making their exit, both Jean Grey and Synch, they have a conversation asking if they sensed it. When Synch had borrowed the powers from Jax, he felt it. He felt something that she didn't even know. She had never been in a situation where it had to be triggered. Not sure if they should tell her just yet. They're gonna wait until all of this is done, with her just recently becoming the Black Knight. With the world about to end, it's a lot to throw onto somebody's plate, especially when you have Excalibur sticking out of your chest. And so when things get a little bit calmer, they are going to let Jax, the Black Knight, know that she is in fact a mutant. Alright gang, so we are picking up at Castle Mordu. And right now, Doctor Strange has come to kick down his door to make him answer for his murder. But the only thing about that is that he did not murder Doctor Strange. Coming out with the eye and the cloak, he lets Strange know that he is not the one responsible for his death. And shortly before his arrival, he discovered that these items had been hidden inside of his castle. And while he has done many atrocities over the years, he will not be blamed for a murder that he did not commit. Now, Doctor Strange, Clea, who is Sorcerer Supreme of the Purple Dimension, and Wong, with Wong believing that he's lying. But Mordu lets him know, would I really lie about this? If I were the one who killed Doctor Strange, do you think that I would try to pin it on someone else? Do you think I would hide all of this from everyone? That even if my life were at stake because of it, this is something that I would own up to. And after a little bit of contemplation, Doctor Strange, he believes him, knowing that he would waste his dying breath letting everyone know that he is the one that took Doctor Strange's life. And so this brings Doctor Strange back to square one. Taking us to the Sanctum, they go here to try to figure out what is their next step. But also they are learning that the child has made its way to Earth, and it has already taken down one of the warlords. Taking down Dagoth, Doctor Strange is a little bit relieved because this could have very easily been them. And now they are running out of time. They need to find out who this murderer is so they can worry about the three mothers and the child, so they can try to get the barrier back up and protect this planet. With Captain America, the Avengers having no sight of where the three mothers are, believing they went back through their interdimensional portal to rest up, prepare for their next attack. And at this point, Doctor Strange, he feels completely defeated. With Mordu being a dead end, he doesn't know where to go from here. And he really starts to have some self-doubt, believing that it was really dumb for him to try to place this temporal phantom, pull this timeline out, and have this week of himself. A week of himself that doesn't understand the people around him, doesn't understand this time, the relationships, the friendships that he has bonded over through these many years. Thinking to himself, how did he believe that this would ever work? And Clea gives him a little bit of advice, saying that she believes in him. And the reason that this is so vital, the reason they need this Doctor Strange from this specific time is because this is the Doctor Strange that believes he can fix anything. And right now, that is exactly what the world needs. And with all of the chaos that has been going on, he hasn't had really much time for bats. Our ghost hound just waiting to go on a walk. And so with everything being so chaotic right now, a walk is probably the best thing, not only for bats, but for Doctor Strange as well. And as they go on their walk, they really start to talk out their problems, to try to solve the issue and figure out what is going on. Because right now, it's a dead end. His investigation is leading nowhere. Everything pointed to Mordu. And because it was not him, he has to wonder, who was it? Is it somebody that wants to frame him? And if they're trying to frame him, what is the purpose of this? And Bats offers up some very wise advice, saying that maybe this was a two birds, one stone situation, taking out both of you at the same time. And so maybe the question you need to be asking is, who would want both of you taken off the board? To kill Doctor Strange out of some kind of revenge, but to make Mordo pay, living a life knowing that he never got to kill Doctor Strange, that was stolen from him, and then to pin it on him as if he did do it, showing that it has to be personal. And just like that, it clicks for Doctor Strange. He knows exactly who murdered him, but without telling us, he has to do some theatrics first, saying that they need to gather everyone together, and that is because he has a plan. And so divulging a little bit of this plan to us, we know that Wong is going to gather as many magicians as he can, and they're preparing some kind of spell that is going to stop the mothers and the child. Not only that, he is grabbing the Avengers and he is going to have them on standby. And it will be up to Clea to gather all of the warlords, being Sorcerer Supreme of the Dark Dimension. I believe I said Purple Dimension earlier, I was wrong on that, Dark Dimension. Her magic very easily matches any of the warlords. And to be honest, she kinda wants them to say no. That would just give her an excuse to go whoop some butt. And so taking us to Antarctica, the warlord known as Mar. This is where everyone will meet. Being brought in by Magic, one of my favorite X-Men, she lets Doctor Strange know that the X-Men will be standing by, ready for his mark. And with our conclave beginning, this starts with laughter, and that is because they are all laughing at Doctor Strange. With him coming in with two Sorcerer Supremes, it looks like a show of force, but he lets them know that they all played a part in his death. And he lets them know that they were all gathered here as he reveals the truth, going on and saying the powers of 4 dread warlords, all of them conjoined, channeling themselves through a pawn. Now these 4, they have always hated one another. They have been bitter rivals, but something has overridden all of that, and that is fear. Fear from the 3 mothers and the child, going from predator to prey. They didn't know what else to do except find refuge on Earth. This is the land of X-Men, Avengers, and those who would defend them. Now, of course, these warlords, they're not going to leave without their kingdoms. Their ego, their power, not wanting to give up any of it. They knew that they couldn't come here with their kingdoms if Doctor Strange was still around. If he was still alive, this would never be possible. And so the obvious answer is to kill Doctor Strange. Now, the barrier was really far from perfect. There could have been easily ways they found around it, but they were in a hurry. And so they found the perfect individual. What they did not anticipate is Doctor Strange coming back and being able to figure out that Mordo was wrongly accused, that this was an attempt to take both of them down at the same time. And whoever did this, they gained a good amount of power when they killed Doctor Strange. But it wasn't just about power, it was personal. A man who had been exiled to the Purple Dimension. A man who once served his enemy, exiled to a land of cruelty and suffering, but he also blamed Mordo for leaving him there and never attempting to try to save him. And as Doctor Strange points over to the corner, we see Caecilius. And from him, we hear a chuckle, with him letting Doctor Strange know that he loves to hear himself talk. But now that the game is ruined, he has every intention of sending Mordo to the Purple Dimension. And then he intends to kill Doctor Strange with his very own power. And with this battle ready to unfold, out in the distance, not far from the kingdom, that is where we have the 3 mothers and the child. Smelling all of the magic, they are ready to devour everyone inside. Alright gang, so with this tie-in, we are jumping into London, England. And right now, the magical barrier that keeps everything at bay, it is broken down because of the death of Doctor Strange, which means there is some monster hunting that needs done. And who better to do that than Elsa Bloodstone? With her blood gem, she is a monster hunter. This is something that she has trained for her entire life. And because of the certain powers and abilities bestowed upon her by the stone that she wears, the stone known as the blood gem. But she also does this because she is super good at it. She is arguably the best monster hunter on all of 616. And right now in London, she is battling against a monster. Now, this monster is not necessarily harmful to humans. It doesn't really have intentions of hurting anyone or eating anybody, but being one of the last of its kind, it sees this giant red double-decker bus and believes it is another of its kind, and its instincts kick in, and its instincts are to mate. So this monster is literally trying to hump this bus, and Elsa Bloodstone is just trying to get him to back off. And after one shot, we see the monster, he starts to whimper, starts to be a little bit scared, not really understanding what it is, but he looks up to the sky and he sees a meteor falling towards what looks like their estate. Not sure what is going on here. She puts a dart inside of this monster, puts him down to sleep, and then she goes to investigate this meteor that looks like it was about to drop directly on their home. And with her arrival, she is met by her brother, both of them coming to investigate whatever this meteor was, thinking that maybe it landed directly on the manor itself. That wasn't the case. Now, her and her brother, they're not really on the best of terms. They immediately start arguing about how this place looks, how Elsa has always just wanted to sell this place, and though her brother has a interdimensional parasite inside of him, like he could clean up a little bit, or at the very least fix what you break when you do change into that hideous monster. And with them getting in a very heated argument, we start to see that parasite make its arrival, with his face starting to transform. The two of them are about to duke it out. That is, until there is a giant crash in front of them, a giant explosion, and nothing but a black rock left over. A boulder sitting in the middle of their room, and them having no idea what this means. But both his ring and her necklace, they are both glowing. And just like that, we see tentacles reaching out in all directions from this rock, grabbing them and trying to pull them in. They are fighting as hard as they can. But with it pulling them in, she doesn't know what to do. Neither of them know what to do, and just like that, it lets go of them. It retreats back into the rock, and they are trying to figure out what the heck is happening here. That is, until we see the rock, it cracks open. And with it cracking open, we see a very young girl. This young girl, it looks a lot like both of them, but more than anything, this young girl, it looks like their father. And this is when the girl in the rock, she gives us a little bit of a history lesson. Because 10,000 years ago, the magical warlord Kraken, he had temples all over Britain and Ireland, with Ulysses not really sure on how to defeat the warlord. He was prepared to show the gods that he was man of his word by sacrificing the things most important to him, one of them being the Null Gem. This gem stabilizes and amplifies the blood gem's powers. Not only that though, he would have to sacrifice his first child. That first child, you guessed it, is the young girl Lyra, the one that cracked out of this rock. But with that sacrifice, it worked. He was able to take down Kraken the warlord. And with the defeat and imprisonment of Kraken, Lyra was taken. She went away deep into the cosmos. That is, until the death of Doctor Strange. Now, obviously, these two, they're a little bit suspicious. They wouldn't put it past their father to sacrifice either one of them. And so the fact that Lyra may have been sacrificed, it doesn't really surprise them, but they have their suspicion because she speaks very good English for someone who has been gone for 10,000 years. But while she was in the cosmos, all she could do was listen to every little sound that ever came her way. And she wasn't really sure how she was able to escape or why she was let go, because she knows that a sorcerer had to uphold the pack with the old gods that kept her there. They tend to pass them on from sorcerer to sorcerer to make sure nothing ever is able to escape. But if an important sorcerer dies, like Doctor Strange, a lot of things can get lost in the transit. And this is when they start to talk about the blood gems, and they talk about the null gem that is in her chest. Now at this point, Lyra, she is surprised that these guys haven't gone mad, because the blood gems without the null gem, it causes insanity. That they are extremely dangerous. They're volatile, because the blood gem is one of the most volatile magical components in all of creation. When their father had sent her away with the null gem, he was also giving up his sanity. The blood gems aren't meant to be used on their own. With them being completely unpredictable, those things can never even stay together and they must be all over the place. And that is because they didn't have the null gem. Without that gem, without that stability, these things are just ticking time bombs. And so with everybody just not knowing what to do with this situation, with it being nighttime, they all want to relax a little bit. They go to their rooms, they try to get some sleep, but they are woken up a little bit later that evening. And up in the attic, we have Lyra with all of the artifacts that her father has ever collected swirling around her. Some kind of energy field going on, and Elsa and her brother are trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And what is happening is Lyra, she was hungry because Doctor Strange and the other sorcerers who kept her sealed away, they didn't just guard her, they fed her. Old relics, broken promises, anything with magical energy. The null gem is her, and it eats magic. And we see Colin, he loses it. The parasite breaks out and goes to attack his sister. With Elsa trying to put down the beast, grabbing its attention, Lyra was not concerned in the slightest bit. With the Glartrox now out and about, Lyra uses her powers, uses her abilities, and she drops the parasite right on its back. And she knows these things from her time out in the cosmos. These are magical parasites from another dimension, and they feed on fear and anger. The only issue is, it shouldn't be this strong. It shouldn't be stronger than him. He should have complete control over this thing, especially having a blood gem. But with their brother knocked out on the ground, she didn't hurt him or anything of that nature. She simply put the parasite back into its place. And she took a little bit of the parasite's magical power. And so with the situation being brought down, Elsa wants her to go back to bed, but the thing is, Lyra, she doesn't want to go to sleep. She's been sleeping for thousands of years, and really she just wants to be awake, looking around at the land around them, recognizing the place where she once lived 10,000 years ago was just outside the window. And Elsa lets her know, I am still very skeptical that you may be my sister, because I'm not a fool to believe that monsters won't appear looking like little girls, even claiming to be our sister to try to get an in. But Lyra lets her know that she listened for centuries. Monsters never started wars or broke realities or sacrificed their daughters. That is what sorcerers did. And what Elsa is learning is that monsters may not necessarily be the threat, that they are the symptom to the true problem. The problem being the sorcerers that control them, the sorcerers that summon them. Because that's why she was sacrificed. She was sacrificed so a sorcerer could have his greatest weapon. And none of the sorcerers who ever fed her or kept her in that place trapped forever, they never asked why. They never questioned it, not even for a second. But in the midst of their conversation, all of the glass gets blown out of the window, and as they rush over to look outside, what they see is Kraken. Now freed from his jail, we have Kraken the jailer, who is free walking the world. With the death of Doctor Strange, the magical barrier that kept him trapped in, it no longer exists. And now he has come for his revenge. And waking up their brother, Lyra lets him know that you now have control over the parasite. I took a little bit of its magical power, so it's not as strong anymore, and you have the ability to now change at will. And then once you're done using this, you can banish it whenever you would like to. Now Lyra, she doesn't really like magic. In fact, she hates magic. She eats magic, she doesn't do magic. But with the energy she's taken from the relics, she can place it so that this place hates magic too. And though it'll take a little bit of time, what she's essentially saying is the entire manor will be a magic-free zone. Nothing can use magic inside these walls. But without wasting any time, our monster hunters, they jump into the fray. And as their brother transforms into the Glocktrox, he starts attacking all of the little guys, while Elsa takes on Kraken. And as she is battling Kraken, saying that we shouldn't be fighting monsters. That is at least what our sister Lyra believes, saying that we should be going after the source of the problem. Summoners, sorcerers, magical god king warlords with armies, because they are the true monsters, and because they are the wizards. And Elsa, she is starting to agree with that sentiment, blowing the head straight off of this Kraken. She knows this is only going to be temporary. This is only going to hold him momentarily. But in the middle of this battle, this is where we see Lyra, Kraken grabbing a hold of her. But what we see is Lyra draining him of all of his magical power. She is absorbing all of it into herself. Because all this power inside of him, she is going to need it so she can banish that parasite inside their brother. Telling Elsa to stand back, we see a giant magical explosion, and the only thing left over is Lyra. Picking up a little bit later in the attic, we see them beginning to do their non-magical spell, making this place hate magic. And she lets us know, Lyra tells us that it's going to take a little bit for this place to become magic free. But what we can do right now is get rid of that parasite. But this place will be a place where we can stop summoners and sorcerers that conjure these monsters up. The monsters that you have been hunting all of your life. And so with the blood gems and the null gem together like this, in this circle, they should be able to take down this magical parasite. And with that, we see the removal. The parasite now banished in the circle. The magic that holds him to their brother can be nullified. He was sent back to his home dimension. And so with all the craziness being done, them now having a sister, the parasite being out of her brother, the question remains, when the next Sorcerer Supreme shows up, if Doctor Strange comes back, Elsa Bloodstone is going to have so many questions. One of them, why were you feeding my sister and never said a single word about it? Why didn't you even ask what was inside that stone? Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are picking up with Doctor Strange versus Caecilius. With Caecilius being the one to cut off the hands of Doctor Strange, he is now using them as his own hands. And as the two of them stand off with one another, this is when the warning goes off. The three mothers and the child are here. And as some of the warlords go to try to make their escape, they quickly learn that they cannot teleport out. And Doctor Strange ensured that this would not happen. Thinking that maybe this was possible, he is going to make everybody face all of their consequences. And they are not able to teleport out because of spells that are being cast. Magicians all over the place are joining together. They are doing this spell as one, and it stops everyone in Antarctica from being able to teleport out. Learning this information, Caecilius, he makes his first attack. And with the power that he is now possessing, he truly does believe that he can take on Doctor Strange. With him completely warded up, he believes that there is no way Doctor Strange can get at him. But Caecilius, he made one fatal flaw. And that flaw was stealing the hands of Doctor Strange. Because to put those hands onto himself, he had to cut his own hands off. And so while Caecilius is warded for any kind of attack, he is not warded for healing. And Doctor Strange, he heals Caecilius's hands. And in doing so, he begins to lose power, using a self-regenerating spell. And as Caecilius falls to his knees saying that this is inhuman to do, Doctor Strange lets him know that he is a master of the black magic. Sometimes he must do inhuman things to keep things in balance. And as magic surrounds Caecilius, as he screams in agonizing pain, everything goes silent in an instant. And as he stands up, we see the one and only Doctor Strange. Everyone in the room in complete disbelief. But there is short time for reunions, because right now there is a battle, a war, being waged right outside. And we have the X-Men, we have the Avengers, summoned at the call of Doctor Strange. All of them coming to fight this epic battle. And as all of them together, they battle the three mothers and the child. Before the two Doctor Strange make their way outside, our Doctor Strange that is only having a week to live, he lets the new resurrected Doctor Strange know that after all of this, he only has one thing to ask. Knowing the sacrifice he is about to make, knowing what comes next, he wants Stephen Strange to do just one thing. With him vowing to do this, they head outside. They go into war. And as they have battle, Doctor Strange, he is not bold enough to believe that his resurrection will come with no consequences. There will always be a price to pay. But today, he cannot worry about that price. Today, they have to save the world. And even though Earth's mightiest heroes have come to this fight, human, mutant, and gods alike, this war is a war of wizards, a battle of magicians, of sorcerers. And we see the 5 Sorcerers Supreme, they unite their power. In a pentagram shape, they are unified as one. And now that their powers have been combined, the 3 mothers and the child, they go to leave. They go to run as fast as they possibly can. Because one Sorcerer Supreme, that may be something that they can take on. But 5 of them working in unison, this sends them running in fear, recognizing that there is no opportunity for escape, unable to teleport themselves out of here. They have to stand and fight. And this is where we see Doctor Strange, the one that only has a week to live, the one that is in astral form. He goes charging head first at the child. Being grabbed up, the child goes to devour the Doctor Strange. And with him being devoured, he goes into the stomach of the child. If he had been in physical form, this may be something that affects him. But being in his astral form, all of that magic that the child has been eating after all of these years has stored up inside of the child. An unlimited and infinite amount of magic. And our Doctor Strange grabs hold of that magic and destroys the child from the inside. All of that magic being lit like gasoline. The child detonates. Unable to actually defeat them, they scatter them across the dimensions, leaving them in places they could never get out of. And when the child detonates, he needs to be as far away as possible. This is to ensure that no civilian lives anywhere in the universe, in any dimension, could get hurt. And so, with their teleportation into other dimensions, with our astral form Doctor Strange no longer with us, the battle has been won. And with this battle being over, we see Clea and Doctor Strange, they embrace one another. And what the astral form Doctor Strange had asked him to do was fix his relationship with Clea, saying that he was a fool for ever letting her go. But now that they have this second chance, Clea swears that he is never going anywhere again. But Doctor Strange, he knows that with his resurrection would come a steep price. Death will not be cheated, not even for a Sorcerer Supreme. And as Doctor Strange lets Clea know that he has to leave this existence, that regardless of his resurrection, he cannot just be reborn. And saying his goodbyes, we start to see him fade away. And as he embraces the woman he loves, we see him fade away into nothingness. And just like that, Doctor Strange is gone. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. It was definitely a long, drawn-out storyline. I think the tie-ins really did make this story a lot more fun though. And though this series is coming to an end, we are getting a new Sorcerer Supreme, and that is going to be Clea, or at least by all appearances, it's going to be Clea, with Jed MacKay taking that story and continuing it on. By all appearances, Doctor Strange is officially dead on 616. Now obviously we could see this change later on down in the future, but as it stands, he is no longer around. And I'm actually quite surprised that Marvel decided to go this route. I expected by the time we got to the end of the series that we would see the resurrection of Doctor Strange like we did, but instead they said there was no way that he could stay alive. And if he were to have stayed alive, there may have been a heavy price to pay for somebody he cares about. Who knows what could be unleashed because of his resurrection. And so while he could have tried to fight this, it was inevitable. Doctor Strange was meant to die. And now with the world being saved, Doctor Strange has faded away. The question now remains, how long is it going to take for our next Sorcerer or Sorceress Supreme to take power? And how are we going to solve the issue that is keeping all of these interdimensional beings from coming in and attacking Earth? And that's why I said that the X-Men Black Knight line is very important to read. Because if I'm getting this correctly, Excalibur being impaled into our Black Knight, who is essentially the embodiment of the stone that Excalibur was pulled from, with the sword put back into the stone, we're seeing that the barrier may hold up. That this is what caused the need for a barrier to begin with, was Excalibur being pulled out of the stone. And so I'm very interested to see where this story is going to go, and especially excited to see what they're going to do with the Black Knight. Because Curse of the Ebony Blade was an absolutely amazing and fun run, and I am very excited to see what Marvel Comics has in store as they prepare for the MCU arrival of Black Knight. And if I can say anything about this comic, it was definitely unpredictable. At least for me, I had no idea where this story might lead. You know, we had the idea the child, the three mothers, they were more than likely going to be defeated. But the fact that they keep Doctor Strange dead, it has me very excited to see what they're gonna do next. Now, be sure to check out my other videos today, because today has a whole lineup of Marvel Comics. We're gonna be getting into Devil's Reign and the 10 Deaths of Wolverine. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, let me know your theories. If you have not yet, do me a favor, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content we have coming out, and until the next breakdown.